My name is Sabrina Torres. I'm 22 years old, and the night my father chose a hammer over his daughter was the night I finally chose myself. But to understand why he smashed my wheelchair, you need to understand my family. In some families, there's a golden child, the one who shines, the one who can do no wrong. In mine, that was my older sister, Victoria. She was the cheer captain, the homecoming queen, the girl who got engaged in a vineyard with a professional photographer hiding behind a tree to capture the surprise. And me? I was the disappointing daughter in the wheelchair. The reminder that bad things happen. The one people spoke about in lowered voices. I was 16 when the accident happened. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit my car head on. My best friend Lila died before the ambulance even arrived. I woke up in a hospital bed 3 days later and couldn't feel my legs, paralyzed from the waist down. I remember my dad standing by the window, fists clenched, my mom crying into a tissue, Victoria hovering awkwardly like she'd wandered into the wrong room. After that, everything changed. Not just my body, my place in the family. Mom introduced me to neighbors with a tone usually reserved for tragic news. This is Sabrina. She's been through so much. Dad installed a ramp at the house, but complained the entire time about how it ruined the curb appeal. Victoria? She visited twice in 6 months, and somehow I became the burden. So when I fought my way through physical therapy, when I relearned independence, when I enrolled at Arizona State University and chose computer science because I refused to let my brain waste away. No one clapped, but I kept going. 4 years later, I was graduating. Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, magna cum laude. I had a job offer waiting in Portland. For the first time since the accident, I felt powerful. Then came the meeting. Mom called me downstairs one Thursday evening, 2 weeks before graduation. The whole family was there. Dad, Mom, Victoria and her husband Kyle, Austin scrolling on his phone, and Victoria was smiling. That smile. My graduation? I asked slowly. Victoria sighed dramatically. That's actually why we're here. Something inside me tightened. I've decided to have my baby shower that day. Silence. You what? The Scottsdale resort only had that date available, she continued breezily, and it's perfect timing for everyone. Victoria, I said carefully, you've known about my graduation for months. She crossed her arms. You'll still be there afterward. It's at the same time. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Lower your voice. Your sister is having her first child. And I'm finishing college. My hands trembled on my wheels. I worked 4 years for this. Well, family should come first, Mom murmured. There it was. The script they always used. I looked at Austin. Say something. He shrugged. I don't want to get involved. Of course not. I'm not missing my graduation, I said firmly. Victoria's eyes filled instantly with tears. I can't believe you're being selfish. Selfish. The word echoed in my chest like a slap. You visited me twice after the accident, I shot back. And one time you complained the hospital smelled weird. Kyle cleared his throat. Sabrina, be reasonable. Graduation happens every year. No, I said quietly. Mine doesn't. Dad stood up slowly. You will attend your sister's baby shower, he said, voice low and dangerous. Or there will be consequences. I let out a hollow laugh. I'm 22, Dad. What are you going to do? Ground me? His face darkened. That was when something shifted in me. When was the last time any of you showed up for me? I demanded. My tech symposium? My awards ceremony? You were busy every time. Victoria opened her mouth. Don't, I warned. Dad pointed toward the hallway. Go to your room before you say something you regret. I wheeled away instead. But as I reached my door, I heard him mutter, this isn't over. And somehow, I believed him. That night, I stared at my cap and gown hanging in my closet. For once, I wasn't asking permission. I wasn't apologizing. I wasn't shrinking. I was graduating. And nothing was going to stop me, or so I thought. The night before my graduation, the house felt like it was holding its breath. No one spoke at dinner. Silverware scraped against plates in sharp, irritated sounds. Mom avoided my eyes. Victoria texted nonstop, probably coordinating centerpieces for the baby shower that was supposed to replace the most important day of my life. Dad didn't say a word. That scared me more than yelling ever had. I was in my room later that night, carefully steaming my cap and gown. My hands were steady, but my stomach was tight. I'd laid everything out perfectly. Tassel pressed, stole folded neatly across my desk. Tomorrow was supposed to be my moment. A soft knock never came. Instead, my father filled the doorway without warning. He didn't turn on the light. He just stood there, his shadow stretching across my carpet. "Last chance, Sabrina," he said flatly. "You're coming to your sister's shower tomorrow." I turned slowly in my chair. "Dad, I love Victoria, but I'm not missing my graduation." His jaw clenched. "You're being selfish." Selfish? My laugh came out shaky. I survived a car crash that killed my best friend. I learned how to live in a body that doesn't work the way it used to. I worked twice as hard as everyone else in every class because people assume a girl in a wheelchair can't keep up. And you're calling me selfish? He stepped into the room. "Family comes first." "My future comes first," I replied. His eyes darkened in a way I hadn't seen since the accident. That dangerous, simmering anger that needed somewhere to land. "You're going," he said. "No." The word hung between us like a challenge. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. A slow, cruel smile. "We'll see about that." He turned and walked away. At first, I thought he was just storming off like usual. Then I heard the garage door slam open. Then, metal hitting concrete. Once. Twice. Again. And again? My blood ran cold. No, he wouldn't. I wheeled out of my room as fast as I could, hands slipping on the rims. Mom stood frozen in the kitchen, one hand over her mouth. "Dad, what are you doing?" I shouted. The garage light flicked on, and there he was, standing over my custom wheelchair, the one I'd saved for 2 years to buy, the one I worked extra freelance coding gigs for, the one that fit my body perfectly, that didn't leave my spine aching. In his hands, a sledgehammer. One wheel was already bent sideways. The frame twisted. The cushion ripped open, foam spilling out like something gutted. "If you can't get to graduation," he said, breathing hard, "you'll have to come to the shower instead." The hammer came down again. I couldn't breathe. "It's just a chair," he snapped. "You'll get another one when you learn respect." Just a chair. Just my independence. Just my ability to move freely in the world. Something inside me went very, very still. Mom finally found her voice. "Robert, stop!" But he dropped the hammer, satisfied. "There, now you're staying home." I stared at the wreckage. $3,000. 2 years of sacrifice. Gone. Destroyed because I dared to choose myself. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" Mom gasped. I dialed 911. "Reporting destruction of property," I said clearly. "My father just smashed my wheelchair with a sledgehammer." Dad's head snapped toward me. "You wouldn't dare." I looked him straight in the eye. "Watch me." I took pictures. Pulled up receipts, opened bank statements showing I'd paid for it myself, even downloaded the Ring doorbell footage, showing him wheeling it into the garage. Denise answered on the first ring. "We're coming," she said. Her boyfriend Jordan's voice echoed in the background. 10 minutes. When the police arrived, Victoria and Kyle had already rushed over, drawn by flashing lights. Victoria was hysterical. "You're ruining everything. This was supposed to be about my baby." Officer Rodriguez, older, with gray at his temples, looked at the destroyed chair. "Who purchased this?" he asked. "I did," I said, showing proof. Dad tried to laugh it off. "It's a family matter." Officer Stevens shook his head. "Sir, this is felony destruction of property, and this isn't just equipment. It's medical mobility equipment. Do you want to press charges?" Officer Rodriguez asked gently. I looked at my father, at the man who was supposed to protect me. "Yes," I said. They cuffed him right there in the driveway. As they led him away, he shouted, "You're no daughter of mine." My voice barely trembled when I answered, "Then stop acting like I owe you obedience." Denise wrapped her arms around me as soon as the squad car pulled away. "You're not staying here tonight," she said. Jordan nodded. "I've got a friend who runs a medical supply company. We'll figure something out." That night at Denise's apartment, my phone exploded. "Victoria, I hope you're proud of yourself." "Mom, please drop the charges. Think about our reputation." "Austin, what the hell happened?" I turned it off. The next morning at 7 a.m., Jordan's friend delivered a loaner wheelchair. It wasn't perfect. The wheels were stiff, the seat harder, but it moved. And that was enough. When they called my name at graduation, Sabrina Torres, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, magna cum laude, I rolled across that stage with my chin high. Denise and Jordan were on their feet, screaming. Some of my professors stood and applauded. And for those few seconds, I wasn't the burden. I was accomplished, powerful, unstoppable. But the storm wasn't over, because while I was celebrating, Victoria was posting on Instagram a long caption about her selfish sister who chose a piece of paper over family. Only the internet didn't react the way she expected. Within hours, comments flooded in. "Wait, he destroyed her wheelchair? That's abuse. This is toxic. Team Sabrina." Someone shared the ring footage. Someone started a GoFundMe. Someone tagged Dad's employer, Wells Fargo. By noon, a reporter was calling. By Monday, it had gone viral in Chandler, and the consequences were just beginning. By Monday morning, my father was no longer just a man who had destroyed his daughter's wheelchair. He was a headline. Local bank VP arrested for destroying disabled daughter's mobility equipment. Someone had sent the ring footage to a community Facebook group. From there, it spread like wildfire. Neighbors shared it, strangers stitched it into reaction videos, disability advocacy pages reposted it with captions about autonomy and abuse, and tagged beneath nearly every post, Wells Fargo. Dad had worked 23 years to climb to vice president. Reputation was everything in banking. By Tuesday, he was suspended pending investigation. Austin met me at a Starbucks halfway between Denise's apartment and our house. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept. "It's like watching a slow-motion car crash," he muttered, sliding into the seat across from me. Dad had to turn in his badge. HR escorted him out. I didn't react. "And Mom?" I asked. 3 panic attacks. She won't leave the house. "And Victoria?" He gave a humorless laugh. "Kyle's parents saw the video. That made me look up." "They're not happy," Austin continued. "They think she manipulated the whole thing." I wasn't surprised. Victoria had always been skilled at rearranging reality until it suited her. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. Austin hesitated. "Kyle found some texts between her and a friend. She admitted she scheduled the shower on your graduation day on purpose. Said it would force you to choose family for once." There it was. Proof of what I already knew. Something inside my chest hardened. "And that's not all," Austin added quietly. "Kyle found out she lied about being on birth control." I blinked. "She told her friend she thought he was going to break up with her, so she secured the future." For a moment, the noise of the coffee shop faded. "So she trapped him," I said. Austin nodded. "She's 6 months pregnant, and he's sleeping in the guest room." Consequences. They were multiplying. Meanwhile, the prosecutor assigned to the case requested a meeting. Assistant District Attorney Lisa Hernandez sat across from me in a small office downtown. Calm. Direct. "Mr. Torres didn't just destroy property," she explained. "He destroyed mobility equipment for a disabled adult. In Arizona, that triggers enhanced penalties under disability rights statutes." My stomach twisted. "So it's worse?" I asked. "Yes," she said gently, "because it wasn't just about money. It was about restricting your access to society. That's legally considered abuse." The word echoed in my head. Abuse. For years, I'd convinced myself it was just tension, disappointment, cultural pride, misplaced anger. But it changed something. Dad's lawyer, Richard Thornton, attempted to negotiate a plea deal, Probation without formal admission of abuse. The ring footage was clear. Dad's recorded words were damning. If you can't get to graduation, you'll have to come to the shower instead. Control. Intent. Premeditation. Back home, the fallout worsened. Grandma, who never touched social media, somehow saw the video through a church friend. She called Mom. Austin relayed the message. I exhaled slowly. Dad losing his job was one thing. Grandma's disapproval? That cut deeper for him than any court sentence would. Victoria's baby shower ended up half empty. According to Austin, the guests who did attend whispered more than they celebrated. Kyle's parents didn't show, and someone had printed screenshots of the viral comments. The irony wasn't lost on me. She wanted attention. She got it. Just not the kind she expected. I spent those weeks preparing for two things: the trial and my move to Portland. My job offer at Tech Vision Solutions started in 2 months. I poured myself into planning: accessible apartments, insurance paperwork for a new wheelchair, budgeting. The GoFundMe strangers created raised over $8,000. Messages poured in. You inspired my daughter. Don't let anyone shrink your light. You deserve freedom. I cried reading them. Not because of pity, because for the first time, people saw me clearly. Not as fragile, not as tragic, strong. The house, meanwhile, was imploding. Mom filed for separation. She says she can't handle the shame, Austin told me one afternoon. The whispers at the grocery store. Dad officially lost his job the following week. Banks don't tolerate executives with felony charges. Victoria and Kyle started couples counseling. It lasted 3 sessions. He moved out. Every update felt surreal. For years, I'd been the unstable one, the broken one. Now the illusion of perfection had shattered, and I hadn't swung the hammer. The trial date was set 6 weeks after graduation. I didn't sleep much the night before, not from fear. From clarity. This wasn't about revenge. It was about drawing a line that should have existed long ago. When we walked into the courthouse, reporters lingered outside. Cameras. Microphones. Victoria avoided eye contact. Dad wouldn't look at me at all. Inside the courtroom, I felt oddly calm. The video played on a large screen. The metallic clang echoed in the quiet room. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Dad took the stand. He tried to justify it. I was teaching her about family priorities, he said stiffly. About respect. Judge Maria Santos leaned forward, unimpressed. Mr. Torres, she said firmly, your daughter is a 22-year-old adult, a disabled adult, who depends on mobility equipment to participate in society. What you did was not discipline. Her voice sharpened. It was cruel, controlling, and criminal. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until she continued. You attempted to destroy her autonomy. Autonomy. That word hit harder than abuse, because that's exactly what he'd tried to take. My independence, my ability to choose. The verdict would be delivered the next morning. As we exited the courtroom, Victoria brushed past me without a word, but I saw it in her eyes. Not guilt, not remorse, fear. Because for the first time in our lives, the golden child wasn't untouchable anymore. And tomorrow, the judge would decide just how heavy the consequences would be. The courtroom was quieter the next morning. No reporters this time, just a few curious onlookers, some disability advocates, and the fractured remains of my family. Dad stood at the defense table in a gray suit that suddenly looked too big for him. He'd lost weight in 6 weeks. His confidence, the sharp banker polish, had dulled. Victoria sat behind him, one hand resting protectively over her 6-month baby bump. Kyle sat at the far end of the row, distance carved into the space between them. Mom looked 10 years older. I sat beside Denise. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small in that room. Judge Maria Santos entered, her expression unreadable. She reviewed the charges slowly, methodically. Destruction of property exceeding $3,000. Interference with mobility equipment, under Arizona disability protection statutes. Coercive control with intent to restrict movement. Each phrase landed like a measured strike. Then she looked directly at my father. Mr. Torres, your daughter is not your property. Her body is not your disappointment. Her mobility is not a bargaining chip. Silence swallowed the room. You destroyed equipment essential to her independence because she exercised her right to make her own choice. That is not parenting. Her voice hardened. That is abuse. Dad's jaw tightened. The sentence followed. I do not want you within 500 feet of your daughter, Judge Santos concluded. What you did was unconscionable. The gavel struck. It was over, or at least legally. Outside the courthouse, the desert sun felt blinding. Victoria caught up to me near the steps. I hope you're happy, she hissed. I turned slowly. Dad was speaking quietly to his lawyer a few yards away. Mom stood off to the side, trembling. You ruined everything, Victoria continued. Dad's a felon, Mom's falling apart, my marriage. Your marriage, I interrupted gently, fell apart because of your choices, not mine. Her nostrils flared. You could have just come to the shower. You could have picked another date, she faltered. For a split second, doubt flickered in her eyes. I'm your sister, she said, voice cracking. You're supposed to put me first. I looked at her. Really looked at her. When have you ever put me first, Victoria? She didn't answer, because there wasn't an answer. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but this time I didn't rush to comfort her. I rolled past her. Denise squeezed my shoulder. You did it, she whispered. That weekend, I packed. Every box felt like peeling off a layer of an old identity. Austin came by to help. He avoided eye contact at first. Dad's furious, he muttered. He always is, I replied calmly. He says you betrayed him. I closed a suitcase zipper. No, I said quietly. I stopped protecting him. Mom showed up while we were loading the last box into the U-Haul. Her eyes were red, her posture smaller than I'd ever seen it. Sabrina, she said softly, please don't leave like this. There's no other way to leave, I replied. We can fix this, she insisted. Family therapy, we can start over. I studied her face. For years, I'd searched it for validation, for protection, for something. You let him treat me like a burden, I said gently. For 6 years. Tears slid down her cheeks. We didn't know how to handle it after the accident. Then you should have gotten help, I said. Instead, you made me the problem. Her shoulders shook. I'm sorry. It was the first time she'd said it without conditions. I leaned forward and hugged her briefly, but when I pulled away, I didn't hesitate. I have to go, Mom. The drive to Portland took 3 days. Denise came with me. Highways stretched endlessly. Mountains rose and disappeared behind us. The air grew cooler as Arizona faded into the rearview mirror. With every mile, I felt lighter. When we reached my new apartment, it was exactly what I'd hoped for. Ground floor, wide doorways, natural light pouring through oversized windows. It didn't feel like an adaptation. It felt intentional. Tech Vision Solutions welcomed me like I belonged. My manager, Helen, shook my hand firmly. We hired you for your skills, she said. Your perspective on accessibility is an asset, not a limitation. An asset. I repeated that word to myself for days. Within weeks, I wasn't the girl in the wheelchair. I was Sabrina, the UI designer who caught bugs no one else noticed. The developer who redesigned onboarding flows to be intuitive and inclusive. I made friends. I laughed without flinching. I joined a hand cycling group on weekends, and slowly, carefully, I started dating. His name was Cameron. He worked in marketing for a local outdoor brand. We met at a company mixer. He didn't stare at my chair. He didn't overcompensate. He asked me about my favorite coding language instead. And when he walked beside me on our first date, he matched my pace without making it obvious. No pity, no savior complex. Just partnership. 6 months passed. Austin left for the University of Colorado Boulder and texted me photos of snowy mountains. Mom started therapy and moved in with her sister. Dad struggled through community service, reportedly uncomfortable being surrounded by the very community he once dismissed. Victoria gave birth to a daughter. When Austin called to tell me what she'd named the baby, I sat in silence. She named her Sabrina, he said quietly. I didn't know how to feel. Regret? Guilt? Manipulation? Redemption? I didn't respond, because sometimes names are apologies that come too late, and sometimes they're just echoes of what could have been. A year after the trial, I received a letter with my father's handwriting on the envelope. The restraining order meant he couldn't come near me, but apparently a letter was allowed. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. His handwriting looked different, less rigid, almost uncertain. Sabrina, I know I'm not allowed to contact you in person. My lawyer said a letter would be okay. I've been completing my community service at the Arizona Disability Advocacy Center for 10 months now. At first, I was angry. I thought it was humiliation. Punishment meant to shame me, but I met children there. Parents fighting for their sons and daughters, adults who were born disabled and built full, independent lives without apology. I see now what I did to you, not just with the wheelchair, but for years. I was angry at the world for hurting my daughter. But instead of protecting you, I resented you. I made your disability about my disappointment. The only shame in this story is how I treated you. You were never the problem. I was. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand. I am proud of you, Dad. I read it 3 times. The words didn't undo anything. They didn't unbend metal. They didn't erase years of being second place. But they were the first honest words he'd ever written to me. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, not in the trash, not framed on a wall, just stored. Some apologies don't demand a response. They simply exist. Life in Portland kept moving forward. I was promoted to senior developer 8 months into my job. My accessibility redesign project won internal recognition and was implemented company-wide. For the first time in my life, my perspective, shaped by every ramp, every inaccessible doorway, every sideways glance, was considered valuable. Cameron became more than a casual date. He met Denise when she visited. They bonded over teasing me about my competitive streak in Mario Kart. He learned how to assemble and adjust my new wheelchair without asking permission first, always waiting for me to guide him. He didn't treat me as fragile. He treated me as equal. One night, we sat on my apartment balcony overlooking the city lights. "Do you miss them?" he asked gently. "My family?" I leaned back, thinking. "I miss the idea of them," I admitted. Not the reality. He nodded, understanding without prying. That was something I'd learned to appreciate. Silence without judgment. Meanwhile, back in Arizona, things continued shifting. Austin thrived in Boulder, snowboarding, studying business, building a life that felt untangled from our parents' expectations. Mom stayed in therapy. According to Austin, she was confronting things she'd buried for decades. Pride, image, fear. Victoria raised baby Sabrina alone after Kyle finalized the divorce. 2 years after I moved, Austin called again. "She's in therapy too," he said. "Vic, I mean, she's trying." "Trying what?" I asked cautiously. "To change, to stop manipulating, to be better for her daughter." A week later, Austin texted me. "Victoria wants to reach out. She says she owes you an apology." I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about the baby named after me. About cycles. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Healing doesn't operate on other people's timelines. I told Austin to tell her maybe someday. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt about that boundary. 2 years after graduation, I competed in my first official hand cycling race. As I crossed the finish line, muscles burning, wind in my face, I realized something profound. The wheelchair my father smashed, it wasn't my freedom. It was a tool. My freedom was never metal and rubber. It was choice. And I had reclaimed it. That night, Cameron took me out to celebrate. "You know," he said, raising his glass, "most people wait their whole lives to choose themselves." I smiled. "I almost didn't, but you did." "Yes, I did. The night my father swung that hammer, He thought he was trapping me. Instead, he shattered the illusion that I needed their approval to live fully. Destruction cleared the path. And on the other side, I found myself. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own dreams? Did you choose yourself? And if you didn't, would you, if you had the chance again? Because I did. And I have never once regretted it.